Saints, this weekend begins the Lenten season, and Psalm 32, one of David's mass skills, a teaching psalm, is part of the lectionary reading. Now, I would argue that David in this psalm is being a therapist from the inside out, and so I want to just share some thoughts with you on the therapy of David. If you know anything about David, you know he's no stranger to the darkness inside himself. It's a man who sinned grievously, who knew betrayal from the inside out, carried secrets that nearly destroyed his life. And yet here he is, opening this psalm not with shame, but with relief. He says, "Happy are they whose transgressions are forgiven and whose sin is put away." David's come through something, and he wants us to know that we can come through it too. What David gives us in the psalm is the deepest and oldest sense of the word therapy. The Greek therapeia means tending, caring, healing. Long before there were clinicians and couches, there was a shepherd king, sitting with the living God, learning that the soul has its own wounds and its own way of healing. And the first thing David teaches us is that what happens when we refuse to let that healing in. So he says, "While I held my tongue, my bones withered away because of my groaning all day long. For your hand was heavy upon me day and night. My moisture was dried up as in the heat of the summer." Feel the weight of that. David's describing something many of us know intimately, but rarely name. When we carry guilt, when we carry shame, when we carry the things that we've done or the things that have been done to us, and we won't bring them out into the open, they don't simply go away, they go underground. They go into the realm of the unconscious, and underground they do that work that they do there. There are two ways we push things down, and this will help us understand the difference. Sometimes we deliberately refuse to look at what we know is there. We see it, we recognize it, we shove it aside. That's called suppression. But sometimes the burial goes deeper. Sometimes the things we can't face slip beneath conscious awareness altogether, and we no longer even know it's driving us. That's repression. Suppression, repression. Repression is far more challenging because you cannot confess what you don't know you're carrying. Carl Jung put it as plainly as anyone ever has, and you've heard me say it before. What we bury alive stays alive. What we refuse to face, we cannot erase. David discovered that in his own bones. He says that in the Psalms. His body was speaking what his mouth wouldn't. His vitality was draining away in the heat of his own concealment. And the hand of God was heavy on him, not to crush him, but to make the silence unbearable enough that he would finally break it. And then we get to verse 5, and that's the turning point. It's so simple, it's almost seemingly too easy. It says this, "Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not conceal my guilt. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord. Then you forgave me the guilt of my sin." Listen to what happened. David stopped hiding. That's all. He stopped hiding. He brought the buried thing into the light, and the moment he did, forgiveness was already there waiting for him. There was no probation. There was no proving himself. The unburdening was almost simultaneous with the utterance. Beloved, that's grace operating at the speed of truth. And now something beautiful happens in David's experience. Before his confession, he's hiding from God. After it, God becomes his hiding place. He says, "You are my hiding place. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance." The same intimacy that felt like unbearable pressure under concealment now feels like home. Nothing changed in God. Everything changed in David. Then God speaks, and listen to how tender it is. He says to David, I will instruct you and teach you in the way that you should go. I will guide you with my eye. Think about it. To be guided by the eye of someone else is to be guided by loving attention, not by force, not by shame, not by bit and bridle, as God says in the next breath. Don't be as a horse or a mule that needs a bit and bridle. And I've shared with you my experience in Bible school when God gave me that vision about that. God's not looking for compliance. God's looking for communion. And communion requires the one thing David finally gave: an open heart. And the psalm ends with joy, and it's no accident. He says, "Be glad, you righteous. Rejoice in the Lord. Shout for joy, all who are true of heart." The true of heart are not the ones who never stumbled. They're the ones who stopped pretending. They're the ones who, like David, found the courage to say, here's what I've done. Here's what I've carried. I'm not hiding anymore. If that's where you are today, let David's psalm meet you there at the beginning of this season of Lent. None of us earns our way back to God. We confess our way home.